Starmer and David Lammy, his foreign secretary, have obviously taken a view that a closer relationship is going to be overall much more beneficial for Britain.
Is Labour going to get cosier with the EU? And if so, what might that involve? Let's talk to the Times political editor, Steve Swinford. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
And this was one of the sort of dogs that didn't really bark in the election, wasn't it? That if you vote for Labour, give them a massive majority, Brexit will be overturned. No one's talking about that, but there is probably an interest for Labour, an interest for the country in having a relationship that is better than what went before. The question is that actually possible?
It looks, I mean, certainly the mood music suggests that. We've had Keir Starmer out in Washington, and it has been a charm offensive and then some. He's seen Olaf Scholz, and they've had a conversation about the closest possible cooperation in all areas. He's seen some other European leaders as well. And next week, we've got this massive event at Blenheim Palace where all the European leaders are coming, and you're going to see lots and lots of warm words. And I think the question is, what does that translate into? What Labour wants is ultimately some closer economic ties, particularly because that's going to be critical in getting growth going. But for many, many years of reporting on Brussels and Britain, that will always come at a price. And how high is that price? And what will that be? Will it be youth mobility schemes, which means young people could come to Britain? How will that look and feel? But what you can certainly say, the mood music is very, very positive.
But the EU cannot afford, can it, Steve, to say, have some lovely advantages of being close to us as a trading partner, but you don't have to be a member. You don't have to pay any of your dues. You just get the good stuff. That's what Cameron wanted. They didn't give it to him. That's what people have been talking about for years and years and years. It's not going to happen, is it? Because presumably the EU, with concerns in France, concerns in Germany, can't look soft in this area, can it?
No, and it's a really hard body to negotiate with. It's good at negotiations. It's done them for many years, and that was what the Tories also discovered when they were in power, that it's very hard to get what you want out of them. But look, there is certainly the diplomacy appears to be working. There is a warmth of relationship that wasn't there before. So we'll just have to see how that plays out next week. I mean, the other side of it is also obviously illegal migration, stopping the boats. One of the key aspects of that is trying to get some kind of returns deal with the EU. We're told that's very, very difficult and very, very unlikely, given that the problems that the EU is experiencing with illegal migration are so much greater. And again, what is the quid pro quo of a relationship like that or an agreement like that? Would we have to take illegal immigrants from the EU in return for sending ours to how would that work? It's all quite messy. But either way, Starmer and David Lammy, his foreign secretary, have obviously taken a view that a closer relationship is going to be overall much more beneficial for Britain.
We're going to talk in a second about luck, but that seems to be a question on the small boats, is that there's been quite bad weather. And so there's not been many small boats over the last week. I was looking at the numbers. There were 3 or 4 days when there were no small boats coming across the channel. Yesterday, there were 400. If we get a month of hot weather, they will come across the channel, won't they? And Labour won't have put anything in place to stop them necessarily. That will be a challenge for Starmer, won't it?
Yes, because what Yvette Cooper is looking at the moment are some long-term solutions. She's setting up a new border security command, which will have kind of more far-reaching investigations across Europe. So like British officials working with officials at Europol and elsewhere, which is all fine as part of the kind of smashing the gangs, but it means that there won't be any solutions overnight. And that was one of the messages that Keir Starmer was giving reporters when he was in Washington. There are no overnight solutions for this. And what that means is you're going to see very high numbers over the rest of the summer. I'm told that the Home Office thinks we could get record numbers in August. We could get huge numbers of people coming over because the weather looks quite, likely to aid that. So how they deal with that and what you do when there's no immediate solution, because obviously Rwanda's dead. Obviously, Labour would argue that was never a solution in the first place, but equally we'll be back in the kind of political circle where people are coming here, nothing is happening to stop them, and how do you square that? And what does that do for Reform and Nigel Farage, and how does Labour deal with that? Because that's a problem as much for Labour increasingly as it is for the Tories.
We talked to Jonathan Powell, who was Tony Blair's chief of staff earlier in the programme. We're trying to work out, we're running a theme this morning, Steve, about lucky leaders. Is Southgate, Starmer, are they lucky leaders, or are they people who've worked to make that luck when it comes really count? This is what Jonathan Powell said.
He's also made his own luck. It's been a very impressive start in government. I'd say it was actually better than our start in '97. We spent time preparing, but they seem very well prepared in terms of the appointments they've made. Some interesting ones, including Patrick Vallance doing science, and in the prisons minister. So I'm really impressed as someone who's had to do this myself. I think they've done very well. And if he's lucky enough to get a further fall in inflation and a fall of interest rates before the summer, then he really will be cruising in.
So is he a lucky general, Steve? The counter to that point was Matthew Syed just now saying, actually, whatever happens in the first week, he's got so many systemic problems of an insipid, flat economy, a difficult global situation, that luck will actually end up turning. But do you feel he started as a lucky general?
I think having this major international event, this summit where he can meet all the world leaders on the stage, not lucky, but the timing's great. The timing for the football's great for a new prime minister. And obviously there are indications that things are getting better on the broader economy. But overall, I probably agree with Matthew that events are going to dictate every premiership. You've seen the prisons crisis. They're going to announce the kind of like mass early release of lots of prisoners tomorrow, which is going to be very difficult politically. And then you kind of, the other thing is we're not getting the budget till September, and that is really difficult. And the kind of fiscal trade-offs they're going to have to make there between tax rises or public spending cuts are not easy. And that is the broader picture here. It all comes down to the economy. It always does. And the economy is not exactly firing on all cylinders. And so that's the challenge he faces. Can he actually find a way to get the economy growing, or is he stuck with this stagnant growth we've got at the moment, which means some really hard political choices to come? So yes, it's been a good week in the short term, but I can see everything that's on the horizon and it does not look straightforward.
Steve, great to speak to you as ever. That's a very fair analysis. That's Steve Swinford, at the Times' political editor.
By the way, I heard. Good news. Good news is right. I tell you what, it's all because of the Prime Minister.
Not lost a game under the Labour government in 2024.
Football coming home, Prime Minister.
It looks like it.
Well, welcome. And it's good that we had a long conversation on the phone when you won. Give me your hand there, pal. And we're the best of allies maybe in the whole world. And we really need to continue to cooperate, and a lot we can talk about. And I think that start off, we can talk about, you call football, we call soccer. By the way, you know, soccer has become incredibly popular here in the United States. It really is growing. And but at any rate, and there's a lot going on. I think you're seeking closer ties in Europe is good for all of us. The Transatlantic Alliance, I think it's a great idea that we're going to be working together on. I thought we had a good meeting today, NATO.
Very good.
I thought we had a good meeting, and I think things are moving in the right direction. I'm feeling really optimistic about the way things are moving. But welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And firstly, congratulations on a really successful summit. It's been an incredibly important moment, 75 years, a bigger NATO, a stronger NATO, and a NATO with the resolve that we need. But the special relationship is so important. It's forged in difficult circumstances, endured for so long, and stronger now than ever. So we're very pleased to be able to come so early in the government to recommit to NATO, to recommit to the special relationship, and to have the opportunity to discuss these affairs with you is really important for us.
From a figurative sense,
5 days in.
I kind of see you guys as the knot tying the Transatlantic Alliance together. The closer you are with Europe, the more you're engaged, the more, because we know where you are, we know where we are in both countries.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And now we go into a cup final on Sunday on top of all of that. So, very good. I actually I began to watch the game with the Netherlands Prime Minister, but we left at 1-1.
Well, you guys are still talking to one another?
We haven't seen each other since, so we'll have to see.
Well, we got a lot to talk about. So thank you all for coming in.